Billy Graham?
There were actually, many that went to be with the Lord that were very significant. And there's just three, obviously, that we've touched, which were three noted Kansas City prophets. There were two other seer prophets that went to be with the Lord. In this 2014, 2015, Bob and John Paul. 2019, Paul Cain. Paul Cain put in the ground 5 years to the very date of Bob Jones. 4 years to the very date of John Paul. But there were two other major seer prophets. Kim Clement, which was a worship warrior prophet, who also moved in ecstatic realms. And John Sanford, then a year after that. And I had a friendship of all five of them. And John Sanford was, I call him Uncle John. John was also Osage Indian. And he and Paula pioneered inner healing, deliverance, healing of reconciliation, and healing of the land, and creating a culture of the first, on pioneers on creating the culture of honor. Before Billy Graham, we also had another major evangelist who went to be with the Lord right after Bob Jones did. His name was Steve Hill. And that needs to be acknowledged as well, because we have bookend evangelists. We have Steve Hill, and I am the guy who prophesied the beginning of the Brownsville outpouring. And Steve Hill acknowledged that, and John Kilpatrick did. And Steve Hill and I ended up becoming friends. And he went to be with the Lord early, just like Kim Clement and John Paul and others. And Steve Hill was the fire evangelist, the holiness evangelist. They got an anointing through Argentina and was a missionary, etc. But he was obviously used. And with fire of holiness that he called people to. But he also was a seed put into the ground in 2014. Then in 2018, right in this time window, we have the evangelist who won more people to Jesus than any person in all of church history. And who probably ascended with some of the greatest character and integrity of all of them. And I would say out of all those prophets, John Sanford was the man who probably carried the greatest character with his gifting. And that's not to put just that, but he was. But so we have a Steve Hill. I wanted to interject the two other prophets, Kim Clement and John Sanford, because this is bigger than a Kansas City prophet issue. So I want to paint the picture bigger since we're doing this. And then also, I wanted to make sure and insert Steve Hill, because we're to give honor to whom honor is due. And that was one of the greatest sustained moves of God, where millions came through a church. And so he did crusades, but was not known for crusades. But Billy Graham would go places like Moscow before it was popular to go. And he bore a brunt by being a forerunner, and no one in history in the United States has ministered to more presidents than what Billy Graham did.
So here's the deal. So Billy Graham passed on 2/21. Acts 2:21 says, "Whosoever will call upon the name of the Lord will be saved." That's part of this thing. He was greatest amount, and I agree. No one has won more souls than Billy Graham. That's part of what is happening, and this is all part of the billion soul harvest. That's all part of seed in the ground that comes upon a harvest of harvesters. So 2:21. And the other thing is this: Steve Hill passed away, but this year, in July, I believe it is, it's either June or July, marks the 70-year anniversary of the Great Argentine Revival, which is after 70 years, you will be returned, Cyrus. You will be released with the gold and the silver. You will be released out of bondage, and you will rebuild. So this year is a 70-year, like Korea. like Israel. You know, after 70 years, the embassy moves from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I told Sid Roth 2 years prior, he said, it's going to happen on the 70-year anniversary. It's exactly when it happened. Thank God. Yeah. So there's something about after 70 years, God does, I mean, there's that window. And so another thing is coming to South America, Argentina, but we're in this season, guys. You know, Bob, you know, he died on 2:14. 2 Kings 2:14 is all about Elijah saying, I tried to get rid of you at Jericho. I tried to get rid of you at Bethel. I tried to get rid of you at the Jordan. What do you want from me, Elisha? I want to double what's on your life. Well, I can't give that to you, but if you see me when I go up today, you'll know that the Lord has given it to you. And it says that they walked through, you know, and then they walked on a little bit further, and the heavens opened, horse of fire, chariot of fire that separated them. Elisha went up in the whirlwind, and Elijah went up in the whirlwind, and Elisha cried out, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. And the mantle fell. And he walked over and he picked up the mantle, 2:14. He walked over to the Jordan. Wow. He had never done a miracle, and he said, where is the God of my father? And he smacked the Jordan, and the miracle happened. And he did twice the miracles of Elijah. Now the fathers, that's exactly what Bob was all about. He died on 2:14, in the year 2:14, and it's 2 Kings 2:14. It's about the literally giving to another generation a double portion. So I think all of these things tied together. The Lord is saying so many things for us. Yeah. And it's our turn now. And there's something new happening. So it's a great privilege to be able to do this, Wesley. I'm just going to toss this back over to you, James. Do you have anything else? And now it's 2:22. It's 12:22.
Let's go ahead and give the Lord a great big clap. Hallelujah. Awesome. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be coming back at 2-ish, 2. And